Hello everyone, welcome to a third interview with product people. This is for the Product Coalition, publication on Medium. We're productcoalition.com, and between me and product managers and just generally product people around the world, we come together and submit articles, chat on Slack, and do what we're doing now, which is interview product people. Today, we've got a bit of a different angle, which is refreshing. We're going to be speaking to Terhi Hänninen in the Helsinki area of Finland. Terhi is a service designer and consultant, and what's refreshing is we're going to be talking about applying service design and design thinking to product management on a day-to-day basis, and how service design and design thinking might be able to assist with frustrations of product management or improve products and businesses and the value that's ultimately delivered to customers as well. So, Terhi, sorry I'm not pronouncing the name correctly, but thank you for joining us, and thank you for taking some time to talk through service design. But before we get into the discussion about service design and design thinking overall, would love for you to introduce yourself and your background, and maybe introduce how you got an understanding of design thinking and why it appealed to you.
Okay, hi. So I'm Terhi, and I've worked in media companies and a big telco, and with a big in Finnish scale B2C services. So old school platforms like classifieds and TV. So I have a technical background, technical education, and I've been working quite a lot with technical teams in the past. But then I ran into some service designers in past projects and got intrigued by it, and I think it was maybe 5 years ago, and then slowly started to build my knowledge on the topic, and then last spring finally did the leap from a quite good corporate career to a very small agency. So I transformed from this kind of very clear and focused product management role to a more like creative problem solver and humanist type of role now, and learning every day in the craft of facilitation and problem solving. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so it's nice to hear a change in direction from a career perspective is always a brave step for anyone, but you're obviously doing it with a passion, which is fantastic, and then don't doubt still being able to bring those technical and team leadership skills to service design regardless. Could you talk us through just the very basics of what does design thinking mean? In my experience, it often gets confused or misunderstood because of the word design. Could you talk us through a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, the design is there, but it's in a kind of generalist way, so that it's the way designers typically solve problems. That's similar. So instead of applying it to designing items, you are applying those same ways of thinking and solving problems to anything, really. So it's nothing more than just a way of solving problems holistically and focused on people instead of just the feasibility or the form and the function of it. It's more like focused on the empathy and how are the people actually in their context going to use the service or the product.
Okay.
So
Brilliant.
it's not I for me it's sometimes when you read blogs or books, it seems quite complicated or maybe academic, but for me, I feel it's quite practical,
Okay.
and it's a craft. So that's why I wanted to speak with you, because I want to bring out that it's really not that hard or it's not that academic that it may seem at first.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about for the average product manager out there,
Mm.
which is a very broad statement in itself. But
Yeah.
but if you're managing a product, and let's go with the assumption of it's a digital product,
Mm.
how could you start to think about changing your mindset, or what did you first, in your personal experience, how did your mindset start to change when it came to design thinking? What were some of the early changes you made personally?
Well, I think it was that it felt refreshing, kind of, because I worked with very traditional companies with very strong silos, and I think that's a world where quite a few product managers find themselves in. So there wasn't real cooperation inside the company, so it's very siloed, and the so-called cross-functional team is more like everyone just reporting on their own KPIs, and not really coming together to solve the problems. So it's like someone presenting something and then the next person presents something else. And so I felt like we weren't really even on the same page on what was the value we are trying to create for the customer. So those were the kind of, I felt that there is something lacking all the time. We are very focused on the data, and we are trying to predict the future based on the data from the past, and crunching numbers, and so, but still I felt like there was something deeper I needed to know or understand, and I felt that we were not cooperating very effectively. So that's why the first time I met service designers and was part of a project that was using or kind of run by service designers, I was kind of immediately hooked, that they forced us away from our laptops, and they forced us on kind of independent thinking, and really understanding the customer and the context where they are, and the emotions they have when they're using our products. So yeah, that was a turning point for me, really being part of one project.
Okay, so that first hands-on experience
Yeah.
change. It sounds though that it was, although there was obviously your personal mindset change, did the rest of the team or organization also respond in the same way that you did to service design?
Yeah, in that project. But then, of course, when the service designers left,
Okay.
because they were consultants from outside, then it was again back to the old habits.
Okay.
And that was kind of even more frustrating for me, because then I obviously, when I was so excited, um, I tried to make everyone involved in the same way, but of course then I wasn't very good at facilitating, or I didn't understand the method so well. So then everyone was just like a little bit rolling their eyes, like, oh yeah, come on,
Right.
don't try it, come on. So that was also another experience then, that sometimes it doesn't help that the service designers from somewhere just come, they run a project, and then they go, and everything just stays the same.
Okay.
So that's one reason why I'm so eager to kind of push people to kind of learn from themselves, learn it, and just I learned it by just trial and error,
Right.
and so it's, of course, it's depending on the organization, that can you try, and even though it fails probably the first
Yep.
2 or 3 times, still kind of keep trying.
Okay.
And that's, of course, it requires quite a lot of internal selling also, and trust in your peers.
Yeah, okay. Like many methodologies or frameworks or ways of thinking, needs to be embodied almost in the culture of the organization as a way of working, as opposed to a process diagram that shows. It needs to be front of mind as a way of working. Okay.
Yeah.
Since then, I know you've been on other projects where you've used design thinking. Could you talk us through how you've used it for problem solving or identifying unique value in products or businesses or identifying opportunities? Could you talk us through maybe a couple of those?
Yeah. So, of course, now I'm in an agency, but we are trying to kind of find customers who would like to build a long-term relationship with us, because of what I just said, that if we go in, do a project, move on, then they will have one good project, but nothing else will stick. So we've had some customers with a long-term relationship, and one of them is in real estate, and that's really interesting because it started so that they asked us to come up with a disruptive concept, so that they would come out with a disruptive kind of disrupting also their own business.
Ah, okay.
But and we did. So we went out and we interviewed and we did ethnography and really deep, kind of open-ended process. So that I think service design and design thinking can also be. You need to understand that if you go into the process with kind of focus that it will be a service that will be the result of this process, then it will look quite different than when you go into the process with totally open end, that we don't know at all what will come out, that you don't have this kind of focus that now we will design a service or now we will design a product. You will go in like totally open-minded, totally kind of plain paper and start just seeing and studying people, and yeah, we got I think a great concept which was so disruptive that after 3 years we're still trying to sell to the customer. It requires a bit of courage to go to that direction.
Right.
But then what they understood then was that we can actually get some really good results with this way. So then we did another project with much more kind of narrow focus, and ended up with kind of a concept of how to bring some emotions into the real estate kind of selling an apartment process.
Right.
And now that's actually the concept is working very well. We were part of the implementation project, and now we are improving it. So now it has been out for a couple of months. Then we go out again and start interviewing, like, how is it working? How should it be improved? What kind of emotion has it brought out in the people who have sold their houses or bought their houses? And found out some new angles to it. So
Brilliant.
So I think it's very gratifying for us and the customer as well that now they understand why we put out the minimum viable concept at first, because we couldn't know how people would actually react to it. And now we can improve it with very concrete steps and be quite certain that those steps will be well adopted by the customers. Okay. And everything is co-created with the customers. So we've had quite a lot of workshops and interviews with people, much more than it's actually doing stuff with people instead of just talking about the people.
Okay, so there's two.
I think that's the biggest difference. It's like actually really going out and doing stuff with people instead of just staying at the office and talking about the data shows and you know.
So the question I've got for you, you talked earlier around having an open mind and not assuming that you know the solution. And when I think about both in small and large enterprises, it's traditionally been a strategy with operational things that need to happen in order to deliver on a strategy. That's quite often driven by vendors coming in and selling their solutions, and a team of people choosing what they believe is the best solution and implementing it. And only then, after you've implemented it, do you know whether it was the right one or not, which is obviously very, very costly. Although that's costly, what it does, though, I feel, is it gives executives comfort in knowing exactly what will be happening in 3 months, in 6 months, and in 12 months. What I'm hearing, though, is when it comes to design thinking is we can't tell you exactly where we'll be in 3 months, but we can tell you we'll have a better understanding of the needs of the customer, but we wouldn't have shipped a product necessarily or shipped a vendor solution. How do you find selling that to an executive who is typically always known what's 3 or 6 months ahead, maybe not necessarily on time, but knows what he's going to be getting? How do you find having that conversation?
That's a very good question, because that's I think the biggest problem for us as service designers is selling and kind of trying to help people understand what we can bring to the table and really making them understand that it's in this an innovation economy and networked economy where startups can really disrupt the whole industry just like that globally, and you wouldn't know 2 weeks before that kind of disruption is coming. So it's like it's false kind of security,
right?
Trying to convince yourself that because I know we will get this thing out in 3 months, if you don't know, will your customers buy it or not, or will it make their life better or not, then it's really false security.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah.
Does that then? I suppose that's when it often falls back to just spending more money on marketing, or spend more money on the brand in order to make up the difference of not delivering accurately on the needs of the customer.
Yeah, and I think that's why in startups you see quite a lot of kind of designers nowadays part of the founding team, because that's the only way they can survive. They don't have that kind of marketing possibilities. They really need to create the pull.
Yeah.
And traditionally the enterprise is really reliant on the push, and that's not working, at least not as well as it used to, because you don't have that kind of mass media channels anymore where you can push stuff out as effectively as you used to. So you really need to be able to create the pull that the customers will come to you and that they want to create a relationship with you. And the old ways of doing are not creating that.
Absolutely. I'm all for it. I get it, and we've spoken about changing the way. There's a mindset change to this, and there's also a way of working within an organisation.
Yeah.
When it comes to first steps to adopting design thinking to identify customer value or opportunities, for a product manager who this is new to, or an enterprise that this is new to, or even a startup entrepreneur on his own, what's the best way to go about picking up some of these skills and start to change that mindset of simply building something and launching it?
Well, there's nowadays, of course, online there's a lot of good stuff, and I would now, if I think back, how should I have brought it into my everyday work as a product manager? I probably would take some really simple methods, like I like the 5 whys, that you just keep asking why until everyone is exhausted, but you probably dug up something useful. And the other one is really, because as a product manager, of course, I've been meeting with customers, and I've had vendors come in and meet me. And those are meetings that I would like to change, really, they are also often like I report something, you report something, and then we discuss a little bit, and then it's bye-bye. To really kind of co-creating something with the customer, really interviewing on the context they have, on the business problem they are trying to solve for their customers, and really go deep under the skin. So those are probably two sweet spots that I would start, like internal the cross-functional team meetings.
Yep.
Start doing some simple ideation workshops.
Yep.
And then they'll maybe have external service designer and come and facilitate.
Right.
If you can afford that.
Yep.
But then really just practice.
Practice.
And then with the customers, really don't settle on the normal kind of we'll send this questionnaire type of web form. Let's collect some yes and no answers. But go out and use an hour and a half with the customer. Really go through the whole journey that they have with you, like what it was like to compare the alternatives, and what it was like to really buy the product from us, and what it was like to use it, and how do you find, the whole journey, even with customers who have already left you, because those customers can usually tell you a lot more than those who are just new or just used your product for a couple of weeks.
Okay. So I'm hearing.
So challenge yourself a little bit.
Spend time with customers.
A little bit out of your
It sounds like something.
Zone.
It's very. If you really wanted to, it doesn't cost anything to try this, and you don't need to do it with a new product or new concept. You could quite simply start with taking the existing customer journey and just experience that hands-on with some real customers in real life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And I think really it's if there's something new and well, like in today's world, almost everything is quite complex, and you probably need to build some kind of ecosystem and so. Then it's better to have a seasoned service designer help you with that, like really facilitate it properly, because you probably have bigger amounts of kind of people coming in and a lot of things you need to take into account. But when you have an existing product you need to improve and optimize, then you can really benefit a lot of when with knowing these methods yourself and kind of improving your work as a product manager, kind of going out from the comfort zone of just looking at the data and working with the Excel sheet.
Okay, so there's some self benefit from this to be a better product manager.
That's really, I think, my message, that I am not trying to replace trained, educated service designers, because you will really understand why you need those people when you're doing something complex, something bigger, and something completely new. But when you are running your own product day to day, there are just simply not enough service designers in this world to replace all those kind of dull meetings. So that's why I think it would be really good for all the product managers to get some like facilitating discussions, I think, and harnessing the collective intelligence of the organization and outside also your customers and other stakeholders. That is a skill that every product manager should have, and that is a design thinking skill.
Okay, brilliant. Just staying on the product management skills and how product managers can adopt this day to day. I know our followers on Product Coalition come from startup founders all the way up to enterprise product managers and CEOs. They're each going to have their own ways of working, whether it's agile, scaled agile, Kanban, lean, etc., etc.
Yeah.
How would they integrate service design or design thinking into day-to-day workflows? What are the tweaks they'd need to change to consider adopting this without disrupting the way the rest of the teams are working at the moment?
Well, we have used design sprints. Okay. So there is a design team who runs a couple of sprints ahead of the developers.
Could you talk through a little bit about what's in a design sprint for us, Terhi?
Well, I think every company should design their own design sprints, but we usually have had the key stakeholders, the product manager, the UX designer, and then we'll bring in the necessary people from marketing, sales, customer service, operations, architects, anyone who needs to be involved in that thing that we are designing currently. So that's kind of a business design kind of sprint. And then when we have all the stories and everything designed, then it's handed over to the development team.
Okay. All right.
So it's like then you don't have to do the decision making and discussion and getting the stakeholders involved and stuff like that, as the developers are already coding. Right. So they get kind of pre-designed stuff.
Yeah.
But it's still not like quite closely connected. It's just maybe 1 or 2 sprints ahead, so that it's not so that you design something and then 6 months later it comes into the
release. Yeah, so small chunks of
very small
delivery
very
value.
Small chunks. Yeah.
You talked right at the start around shared understanding within a team through service design in your very first project experience, and we were just talking about programmers, engineers. Then Do you involve them in design sprints? And because you talked so much earlier around empathy for the customer and really understanding the customer's needs, how does that information transition into the development or engineering team?
We do get them involved.
Right.
In the also kind of depending on what part of the system is affected by the design we're doing.
Yeah.
Because of course, big part of design is feasibility. If we're designing something that's not at all possible to create, or it will cost huge amounts of money, it doesn't make any sense. So we need to have the technical team members there with us to tell what is actually feasible to do. So I think the Venn diagram of design thinking, where the sweet spot is between viability, desirability, and feasibility, is really good, because the customer is really the one you need to keep in mind to create something that's desirable. But then, of course, it needs to be viable in a business way. So you need to have the business people there with you. But it also needs to be feasible. So that's where the tech, or the whatever way you're going to implement it. If we're talking about a digital service, then of course you need to have the people who are going to implement it.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much for taking some time in Helsinki, on the other side of the world from me in Melbourne here. It's been a really interesting conversation from a non-typical angle around product management, and I think people watching this and who subscribe to the Product Coalition on Medium will find it really interesting, and hopefully provoke some thoughts and take on some lessons from yourself around how it can make you a better product manager, but also make product management easier for you in the workplace as well. So thank you very much.
And when maybe I can collect some links.
Yeah, feel free to shoot through some links, and I'll share those below this video on YouTube, and also in the article on Medium, to help people get started, and to reach out to yourself if they need to as well.
Yeah, sure.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much. Have a great day in Helsinki.
Thank you.
And we'll speak to you
soon.
soon.
Thank you, Jay.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so there's a completely different interview to the last two that we've done, where I'm going out and meeting product people from around the world. So far we've spoken to Leah and Ricky from upspot.io on the startup world and building a product from the ground up, quite literally out of nothing. Then last week we spoke to O'Reilly from Scenit.io on running the head of product role at Scenit, and really we went through the lean canvas almost step by step as to what Scenit delivers from a unique value perspective, and the problems they identified, customers they identified, to bring that product to market. And today, service design and design thinking with Terhi. I can't roll my R's like I'm meant to when saying Terhi's name, I'm sorry, but hopefully you found this interesting, and subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to delivering more of these interviews to you guys in the future. That's all for now. Thank you.